put myself on mute so I don't. All right, we're live. Cheers.
I love doing that. Hey everyone, welcome back to Isyour6covered. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about optics for just a little bit, just to say hi to all you guys, and then we're out of here. So nobody's got a chat on tonight, so we figured we'd have a little fun. But tonight we got X-Ring. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, X-Ring. I'll just go ahead and tell everybody from North Carolina, and I like to shoot a lot of long range and 3-gun competition. That's pretty much it.
All right, and then we got SoCal, Mr. Reloader.
Mr. Reloader. Yep, that's me. SoCal. I'm from SoCal, and I have a YouTube channel, and I never put videos on it. And my wife's heading to bed, so I'm gonna give her a kiss. I'll be right back.
All right, you guys are just a live bunch of group here. All right, so we did a video, X-Ring and I, the other day. He was sighting in a Night Force NSX. No, what was the model number of that one?
Well, it is called an NXS series, but they're giving it the name of the NX8.
NSX? No, I think that's you. What was the model number of that one?
Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
NXS series.
All right. That's the first rookie move.
Yeah, you mute the other window there, Scooter.
There we go. Did you get it? All right. You just got to hit your microphone when you're ready. Ray. We're going high and tight. Yeah. See this haircut? All right, cool. I'm already getting comments on my magic haircut I got here. I did this myself today because I couldn't handle it anymore. You know, you get the hairs right here, and you got your hat on, and you have a little tree growing out the sides. Couldn't take it anymore, so grabbed a pair of shears, and off I went. So, thanks for noticing. Or maybe not. All right. So anyways, Night Force. Continue on there, Mr. Helms. Oh.
No, the only thing I was saying, and I don't know if it came across or not, was it is an NXS 1-8. However, on the box, they're calling it an NX8. And it's the newest release from Night Force right now.
Okay, so we put that video out, and a lot of good comments, but it was how to find the stop, right? If you want to talk about it a little bit, and then we'll talk about scopes.
What, the zero stop?
Yeah, the zero stop.
You're talking about the zero stop.
See, a lot of us.
So most of the Night Forces, you can get even a lot of the other scopes. Vortex, they call a zero stop, and what a zero stop is if you're doing a lot of long range shooting, you're going to go beyond one full revolution. And so let's say you get done shooting and you're shooting at 1,000 yards and you're at, I don't know, I'm going to make up a number, 41 minutes, or you're at 8 mils. Well, that's going to be more than one rotation on most scopes. So let's say you forget to run your zero back and you get back home and it's showing, I don't know, it's showing you 1 mil, but it's really maybe 9 mils or 8 mils because you've already won a full revolution. There are some manufacturers like Schmidt and Bender where they have a pop-up dial or a pop-up window that let you know that you've went beyond that first rotation. But in a lot of scopes, they don't have that. So you set the zero stop to make it close to where your true zero is, which in most cases is going to be, your 100-yard zero. I don't have it stop dead on zero because there have been times that I've went to a competition and we needed to re-zero our rifles because the altitude or wherever we're shooting, and let's say I needed to come down, half of a mil or 1 MOA. I can't go beyond zero at that point. So that's why I always have a run out below it just a little bit, but still I won't go beyond a full rotation. So that's what a zero stop is. Tells you where the bottom is.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. I would say both of you and SoCal here have picked up some awesome machinery as far as optics are concerned. And with a great name and great glass comes great price. But what would you say is the most key important thing when you're talking about trying to find a scope, but trying to be more of the budget friendly stuff? Like, is it more important to have like a better dialing system over glass, or like what would you say that the next few steps down are? Someone that doesn't want to spend, you know, a mass amount of money on a scope, but still wants good quality, zero, stays zeroed. I mean, anything you guys want to spit out about that?
I say glass. Glass is key, but
no.
Glass is key, but I would say also tracking is probably the most important, at least in my opinion. Yeah. If the mil dots in your, or the MOA lines or whatever you're using to scale, if they're not accurate and they don't track accurately, the scope's basically worthless unless you're not actually using them. You're just using the crosshair, then it doesn't really matter. You're only using half the scope. But clarity and tracking, I would say, is key.
All right. What do you think, X-Ray?
All right. I will agree with SoCal to a point. Look, you get what you pay for when it comes to optics. Okay, I firmly believe that. If you start going lower end and you're trying to do precision rifle work, it's hard to find decent glass and good tracking or great tracking on a budget. I mean, you can find it occasionally, but what I've seen is you know, the lower end of the spectrum. I mean, if you take your elevation turret and you grab it like this and you spin it up and down, you should be able to go to zero on that elevation and it still hold at zero. A lot of manufacturers cannot do this. You know, I see a lot. I've been reading since I got on this YouTube channel about Vortex. Now, I've owned a lot of the Vortex optics, and they make great optics for the money. But like the Razor HD, you know, those things track like nobody's business. I mean, they work well. The glass is good in it. And they've got a lifetime warranty, you know, and then everybody says, well, it's because you're having to send it in all the time to have it repaired. And yes, I've had to send them in to have them repaired. And there was no questions asked on that warranty. They always covered it. But I don't want to be down that time or unmounting the scope, re-zeroing it again when I get it back. I'm not knocking Vortex. I'm just saying they have a great warranty, but I've had some issues with their optics. At the same time, the last two Schmidt and Benders that I ordered, the 3-27s, those would not track either, and those had to go back and get repaired. Quality controls went down on the Schmidts, in my opinion, once they started fulfilling the military contracts. And you know, when you're paying $5,000 for a scope, you shouldn't have those kind of issues. Go to pretty much any forum and find out how many people have had problems with night forces, and you're going to be tough to be able to find somebody that's got issues with them. I mean, they rarely break. Even their SHV line is pretty bomb-proof. So for me, the most important thing is tracking, and glass is important. It's extremely important. But unless you spend 8 hours, you know, looking through a scope, you're not going to be able to tell some of the differences. And what I mean by that is, you know, how much of a headache you have at the end of the day when you've been looking through glass for 8 hours or observing. Is
that where you would say that the HD, basically the Vortex HD, compared to the Night Force, is where the money comes in? Like an HD 1-8, say, is like what, $1,800. And then
well, there is no Vortex 1-8. There's a Vortex 1-6.
Or 1-6. 1-6.
Yeah, that's a great piece of glass. I've never seen one of those.
But if you took that same one, say it's what, $1,600? Let's come up with the price first.
I think it's 1,300-ish.
How much?
About 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you took a 1-6 Night Force, what would you say the price range would be?
Well, see, that's the problem. This 1-8 that I just bought, it just replaced the 1-4 that they had. They were late on board and getting into the 1-6 game, and now the 1-6 game is kind of, I'm not going to say it's played out, but now 1-8s are available in all the major manufacturers. Like your Strike Eagle is a 1-8, so yeah. Vortex stayed ahead of the curve there. And for the price point, it is hard to beat that scope. It is good, but the glass is terrible and it's very milky. I like the Strike. I'm not knocking what you have. I mean, you paid what, $3.99 for that or something?
Yeah, it was like right at 4 something, like way with low
Correct.
4s. Yeah.
So bang for the buck, it's hard to beat it. You know, usually on a 1 to 8, you're not playing a lot with the knobs on tracking, especially if you're doing 3-gun. Once you get it zeroed, you're good to go. And at that point, then it's just clarity. But, you know, on these longer range rifles like what SoCal uses and what I use for these 6.5s and all that, you're constantly dialing back and forth. And it's the repeatability that's very, very important. But I have noticed that on the Strike Eagle, when you start getting into the 6 to 8 power, it starts getting very cloudy. And I'm sure you've seen that as well.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to mention. A lot of the lower quality, I don't want to say, I guess not necessarily quality, it's just like you were saying, you get what you pay for. The lower end of the spectrum, it's not just the glass itself, but it's the way everything focuses and everything lines up. You have to have absolute precision for even the geometry of the glass, the focusing. And when you don't have both, especially when you crank up to full power, you'll get just a milky, just distorted as hell view down range, and it's just not good medicine. No.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the thing with the one I have, the 1 to 8 Strike Eagle.
Also, I've also noticed the eye relief gets all jacked up, and if you dial way out, you have a lot more area where you can kind of fudge. You know, if you're doing like making circles with your head, trying to find the right angle to look through the scope, that circle becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The higher end scopes, you can crank them all the way up, and that eye relief and that area where you're finding the sweet spot never changes. Makes sense.
Well, you got a couple questions out here. You got Southern Style 357. He's saying what's down range as far as how many yards? So
yeah, 1,000
yards with the 1 to 8
or more. Well, you can shoot at 8 power that far.
You can shoot iron sights, but
yeah, correct. But okay, so there's 2 different mindsets on this, and I use both. You're either going to be dialing, which dialing is going to be your most precise way to hit that target. The closer in it is, you can hold it over, and you're not going to have any issues. Now, like in the Vortex, the Razor HD, they're 3 to 27. In their reticle, their EBR2C, you only have 0.5 mil increments. So if, let's say your dope calls for, let's say 7.2 mils, and you're shooting at, you know, this is going to be a close, but let's say you're shooting at 850 yards and you're trying to hit a 12 by 12 steel. Well, a 12 by 12 steel, trying to hold 7.2 when all you've got is 7 and 7.5, you're trying to all bracket. Whereas if you're using something like a Trimmer 3 or an H59 or even an older H58, you're going to have 7, 7.2, 7.4. So if the call is 7.3, you just hold it between 7.2 and 7.4, and you're going to make your hit more than likely. But there comes a point, depending on how small the target is, that it's better to dial that 7.3 in rather than try to do holdovers. So it is a combination of glass, reticle options, and repeatability that I look for in an optic. And so when you're shooting, you know, 1,200 yards or 1,000 yards, and you're trying to hit a little, you know, head-sized target, it's really tough to do holdovers. So at that point, you're going to want to dial. But you need to make sure that scope can track properly, and that when you go back to 0, 0 on your windage and elevation, that it's still dead on the money. And that's what I get with the Night Force, is the repeatability. Yeah, because I've had a lot of problems. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying you're less likely to lose the 0 through travel, through packing, through driving and bumping and beating. A little more tougher, right? As well, a little more rugged with the durability wise, with taking a beating.
Yeah, I mean, guys, my background with scopes, I've pretty much shot everything from the Hensolds to the Schmitz, I've owned them, and I keep going back to Night Force. Right now, my entire collection is pretty much outfitted with Night Forces. I even went and tried, now, SoCal, sorry, I don't want to step on any toes here.
Loophole basher.
I tried, well, you know, the Mark 8s and the Mark 6s and the Leopold line. I had a Mark 8 that went down literally a month after I had it. Now, I treat my equipment well, but when it's time to use it, I use it at that point. So if that means offloading a pack and dumping it, it's got the rifle in there with the scope, it should be able to take those type of conditions. We're not throwing it off the torture test it here. And I keep going back to Night Force because I'm telling you, I haven't had one yet. I'm gonna need to knock on some wood because I've never had an issue with one.
Now, let's say the guy goes out, he wants to build a semi-decent hunting rifle, right? We'll just call it a, I don't know, he wants to shoot deer of some sort. It doesn't matter on the caliber, but he wants a rifle, but he doesn't want to spend a ton of money. When it comes to the manufacturers like Bushnell, so on and so forth, and there's a ton of those cheaper models. Would you have any ideas? I know you don't mess with that end of the spectrum, but one's better than the other because they're made. Okay. So what in the normal ones like your Bushnells and so on, stuff that people would normally go buy.
Because Bushnell makes some really high-end optics. When you start looking at their DMR, HDMR line, I personally know of a bunch of SF guys that are running those units and love them, and I've shot them and I love them. But if I'm going to be that much into a scope, then I'm probably going to go with something a little bit better. You know, if I'm going to be $2,000 into a scope, then I'm going to put a little bit more into it and just go ahead and go with the Night Force with what I know. But no, Bushnell makes some great.
I'm talking like 300 and down.
300 and down.
The guy that normally just wants to hunt once a year, get his deer or elk.
Yep.
But like, I'm sure some of those companies actually make some of the other ones as well. You know, they don't use the nicest glass and all that stuff, but it's the company that maybe owns them as well. Like low end rifle scopes that you think, like Nikon. I have a Nikon that I enjoy.
Yeah. I have a lot of personal experience with the Nikon 223s. I've seen quite a those go out after about a year, 2 years worth of use in 3-gun. But look, I was big into photography. So when I first started off in all this, I was like Nikon. And I experienced some issues, but for most of your hunters, I think if you can set that price point where you're looking at like a Vari-X, 2 or 3 or something like that, that's all you're ever going to need because those guys aren't really turning knobs. You get it set, you're pretty much good to go, depending on which those guys aren't shooting deer at 700-800 yards. I mean, I know guys that do that, but then you start becoming, is it an ethical kill? If you can hit the target or whatever. I mean, if you're going to go hunting, you need to make sure that you're putting the shot where it needs to go. And I don't know guys that deer hunt past, especially up here in North Carolina, most guys aren't shooting past 100 yards, at most, but sometimes, 200-300 yards max. You get out west though, and then
yeah, I'm just going to say it's hard to even find places to get past 100 yards really with all the woods.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Vortex, they kind of own the market on everything from their lower end to their higher end. They've got a good game with a great warranty. I do have some Vortex scopes. I've had a lot of the 1-6s. I've had a lot of the Razor HDs, and I've shot them. I've got no complaints with them other than the fact they do seem to go back for warranty a little more often than I like.
Well,
yeah, exactly. See, Big Al hit on. Yeah. If you're shooting a deer at 800 yards, you shouldn't. And I agree wholeheartedly. But there's a guy here locally that took one last year at it was 700 and something yards because he's a long distance shooter. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? I was like, how long did you have to track the deer? Well, it was like a 2 or 3 hour track on it because it wasn't a well-placed shot. And I said, you shouldn't even be hunting. And that's exactly what I told him. If you can't do that ethically, you don't even need to be. Coyotes, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But
yeah.
If you're taking game to harvest, you need to be ethical about it.
Well, you got a question out here. No, either one of you, but they're saying Nikon or Vortex, and they're saying Leupold or Nikon. Like they kind of want to set the price range at 500. Some of them, but then they're asking you Alaskan Ballistics. He's like on a Ruger American with Nikon or Vortex.
Yeah, I'm gonna let someone. You say I lie when I tell everyone the last air shot was 1,500 yards.
$500 is a weird price range because everything, it seems to me, you have like your $100 to $250 price range. Then there's like a $350 area, and then the next jump is like $700. There's not really a 500 unless you can find something on sale or something. But it just kind of, nothing is coming to my mind that's in a $500 price range.
Yeah,
that I'm familiar with.
If I had to, no, and I agree with you 100%. But if someone asked me straight up, Nikon or Vortex, and I don't know what Nikon's actual policy is on warranty, I would go with the Vortex just because of the fact I know if I don't care if it fell out of the back of my truck, they're going to replace it. So yeah, I would be on the end of Vortex on that one.
I'm not a hunter, but I'll pose the question. Harry's holster is asking, is 6.5 sufficient for elk? I guess it depends on the bullet you're using, but if it was closer than not, it's got the velocity. It's just, I don't know. It's pretty small. It's pretty small caliber, but I don't know. I'm not a hunter.
I would, yeah, I probably wouldn't say so. I mean, can it be done? Yes. I just think there's a better cartridge if you're going to be shooting elk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit.
You know, some people would argue that. Yeah, people would argue that a 308. Look, and I'm a huge 308 guy. I've shot it all my life. I mean, that wouldn't be my first choice for elk. Will it do it? Yeah, well placed shot would do it, but I would go with something larger.
No, great questions out here. It's gonna. I got one of those. Yeah, Gunmetal says he's got the Strike Eagle. I really enjoy it. I have the 1:8 version, and it does. The glass is very clear till I hit 8. If I stay like at 7 or 6, it's perfect. Once I go to like 8, it starts to get a little cloudy. But it's way better than my 1 to 4. So I can't complain.
The 1 to 6s.
Yeah. See, Bad Billy's got Elkin 7mm mag or 300 Win mag.
Yeah, he's saying he would use 7 mag or 300 Win mag, and I would agree. Those are, I think, better cartridges than the 6.5 if you're going to hit bigger game.
Yeah, see, Alaskan Ballistics, he's out there getting caribou, which is another large elk size, a little bigger actually.
I imagine at that range, either the 7mm or the 300 Win mag would pretty much blow straight through an elk, but it would the hydrostatic shock would, if you missed its heart, would still stop it, I imagine. If you're anywhere close.
What was that?
Clunk. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because when you go out and you finally get some money saved up and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this rifle, you know, like the talk is the Creedmoor, right? Everybody's wanting to shoot that or get into that caliber because it's a badass round. And then going, well, to get the right optic for it is going to be another blank. It's like, damn. So it's like some people are wanting to do that, but then at the end of the day, they need to know that their scope's probably going to be a lot more than the rifle, or it could be, depending on what they're buying. Could be.
I mean, scopes are like it's a lifetime investment, literally. It's like I can't say it's like buying a car or buying a gun because guns wear out, cars wear out, but scopes, I don't know that they necessarily wear out. They might get dirty, that you might get hazing on the inside of the lenses, which is pretty rare. I mean, you have to own it for decades, but you can always send it back to the factory. Most of the Vortex, Leopold, Night Force, Schmidt Bender, you name all these higher end manufacturers. It's like Dillon. You break your Dillon, you could give them a call. They either tell you to send the machine back or they send you the parts for free. All these companies are the same. So, thinking long term, I don't have a problem. I mean, it's painful. They say cry once, buy once, or buy once, cry once. Spending $3,000 on a scope seems absolutely ludicrous, but it's going to last you. It's going to last you three decades.
I would say for most people, probably 98% of the people in this external chat, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It is a tough pill to swallow. I didn't normally, I only have maybe
that's like this being the pill. This is the pill.
Yeah, it's a big pill. It's a big bitter pill.
But I totally understand. I mean, it does what you want. It holds the zero.
And if you get tired of that gun, you can always take the dumb thing off, put it on your new favorite gun.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin had just texted on, or had just put on the pop-up that you should spend more on the optic than you do on your rifle, and I responded 100% correct. But then he retracted it, so I don't know what he was going to add to it.
That's what all European dudes do.
Most people,
Europeans buy like
most people do not.
European guys buy like a $600-700 hunting rifle, but they'll turn around and spend $4,000 on glass because they realize this rifle's worthless unless I can make that 400 or 500 yard shot.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I'll tell you a real world experience. We were doing sniper qualifications, and I was running a Schmidt on my weapon, and all the other guys had Leopolds. And they said, "Can you guys take the shot, or is it too dark?" And I said, "No, I can see the take the shot, no problem, perfect center." The other guys could not see the target, even though that they powered down, tried to get as much, as they could to get more light gathering without the help of any night vision or anything like that. There is a difference in that glass, but during the daytime, you really couldn't notice the difference between the optic that I was running and theirs. So, for a hunter, those guys are trying to squeeze every last bit or get as much light gathering as they can. It does matter at that point. But if you're just shooting during the day, or you're going to be hunting during the day, I don't know if you're going to see that 95% light transmission as opposed to. So for some guys, it might not be worth it to spend that extra $2,000 or $3,000, for whatever it is. I think those optics, they were running Mark IVs, and those aren't cheap, but they were still less than $2,000. So those are things that you would need to take into consideration. But if that's not going to be part of the game, then don't spend that kind of money. So the thing is if I ever sell a rifle, I never sell the glass with it. I always try to keep the glass, because like what SoCal said, it's a lifetime investment. Just keep it for something else later.
Yeah, no, and you made some great points as well. That's where the money comes in. That's where you spend that extra money. Like,
it's like buying a Ferrari and having Changshan tires on it. Okay, you'll never get the performance out of it that could possibly be possible if you're using it to that extent. The guy that drives his Ferrari on the street, no big deal. The guy that takes on the track, he's going to want something better than street tires. Think about it for long range shooting. If you're constantly turning those knobs, let's say the race application, that's where you're going to see the repeat. It's supposed to hit every time. If you're gonna be the guy that zeroes it at 100 yards, and you never touch the turrets again, you're going to check it, before hunting season, then you don't need to spend that kind of money other than light gathering. How's the SHV line since it doesn't have an illuminated reticle? Can you not get any of them with illuminated reticle? I'm not sure. I've actually got 2 of those, but I don't recall right off the bat whether or not they're illuminated. I thought mine were, so I can't answer that question without looking at them.
I thought they were. But I think you can get them with it, but I'm not sure either, though.
Okay, with or without. Yeah, I have the original SHV line, I didn't like the turrets. They felt very chintzy, but the newest SHVs from Night Force are really robust, and I like the turrets on those.
All right. Well, how important? I kind of know this answer, but it'd be good for everybody else. Mounts, right? You can go to Walmart and get a mount for a 30mm objective, or
Oh,
see, I'm already getting some laughs. I'm already getting laughs. Let me finish the question. How important is it to match your optic with the mount? Like, say you had a so this is the reason why I'm going to ask this question, because how important is it? If I have a $300 scope, is it more important to have a $100 mount? You see what I'm trying to ask? Like, how important is the mount?
Yes.
I mean, I know the answer, but go for it.
In your case, it's very important. Okay, so the case in point here, I was over at Rick's house, and we actually went to the range first, and he didn't have enough right adjustment in the scope to put it on paper. Well, we get it back to his house. I start looking at it, and I'm like, dude, where were these things made? In like shop class at the high school, because it was torquing the tube so badly that the center line of the scope was like 10 degrees to the left of the bore of the rifle, and it was because of a cheap, and I don't know where you got them from, but that was the cheapest ring setup I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I guess so. So yeah, I'm not going to go with something like that. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a set of Spurs or the Air Attacks, but at least spend $100 on a set of bulletproof rings. Something like some Badgers or Mark IVs or something like that. I mean, I don't skimp on what my scope is attached to.
Now, do you always have a one piece? Do you always have a one piece mount, or do you ever shoot any that just have the two?
Yeah, the Mark IV rings are individual rings.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of Mark IV rings. They're good quality for the money, and I don't have any issues with those. You want the one pieces, especially like a cantilever mount, to get it forward if you're shooting like on an AR platform. But I mean, I have a lot of both, so I don't like quick releases personally. I don't care if you're using LaRue's or anybody else. There's great stuff. It doesn't move. The Bobros mount, or however you want to say it, those are great mounts. But personally, everything I have is screwed on. And
how about Shepherd scopes? Let me see who was asking about it. Kevin Roberts was asking about the Shepherd scopes. He saw, or his friend saw at a SHOT Show. Did you get a chance to check those out?
I don't know anything about it.
No, the only Shepherds. No, I'm reading back through some of these questions. Man, these questions are coming up faster. Or these questions I keep up with. But like Alaskan Ballistic said, and I would agree with his statement, it's better to have a $150 mount and a $200 scope than a $300 scope with a $30 mount. And I agree with that completely. Fuzz Fork, that's funny. Somebody asked about lapping, and I've been asked this question a lot of times. No, I do not lap my rings. And the reason is you typically are not going to see any issues with the higher end rings, like your Badgers, like your higher end rings. The machining quality is such that it's not really that necessary. You start getting below that, then yes, it is necessary to probably lap them to make sure that they're sitting in their square. No, man, $3,000 scope with $4 mount. No.
Talk about lapping for a minute.
The mount I put on, what gun was it? I think it's the mount that I have on my my MPA. It's a JP Pursuit. What is it? JP Enterprises Enter something or others.
Yeah. Those are great.
There's a big orange card that comes with that says, "Do not lap these rings." They are fine out of the box.
Yeah.
So,
lapping was something, I mean, a lot of people still do it, but that might be one of those things. I mean, now with machining technology and the ways that these, the CNC machines can hold their tolerances, I don't think if you buy a good quality set that it's necessary to lap them. That's what I'm going to say about that. But no, I don't lap anymore, but I don't buy lower end rings either. You
got another good question out there. Harry, quit retracting your questions. But
I know, it's like I read it.
He had said, where'd that question go? Something about a $1,500 scope.
I was reading it.
Yeah.
While you guys are reading it, I'm going to ask X-Ring a question, or anybody who knows the answer for that matter, because I've never lapped any of my scope mounts. So, do they make a tool that is semi-resemblant of a shit? I hate when this happens. Poof, the word evades me.
It happens all the time.
Like a reaction rod, like a big, heavy hunk of iron that's perfectly round that you can use as a lapping device, because I can't.
Yeah, that's exactly what you use.
So, yeah, I can't imagine using a $3,800 Night Force scope as a lapping device for some rings. You scratch the shit out of it. Yeah.
No, you can buy those. I mean, you can get them on Brownells and anywhere else, and you get basically all the lapping tools that you need. But like I said, nowadays, not really necessary. Your lapping kit, yes, that's exactly. It's a bar with a handle. That's it.
What does it do? Talk more about lapping. I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Well, back in the day, there were really only 1-inch tubes, and 30-millimeter tubes was, oh man, that's the best tube around. Now there's 34 millimeters, 35 millimeters. And so you'd have to buy all the lapping kits for the different millimeters or inch, whatever you're using. It's not so common anymore. I mean, you're seeing all kind of funky millimeters out there now.
So, Rick, to answer your question, lapping is you're taking a device to true and smooth out and, for lack of a better word, uniform the internal diameter of the inside of the scope rings. So everything lines up.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. That's what I needed to know. There's that question again that Harry has. Any of you guys want to answer that?
Hey, Tikka makes a good rifle. I'm not going to knock them at all. I mean, I've shot everything from their tacticals, the T3 tacticals and everything. It's what the user can do with that rifle. I've seen Ruger Americans where guys are, shooting those things and holding them in it. And then you got a guy that's got I'm just going to make this up here, but then you get a guy that gets a Christensen, and the guy can barely hold a minute and a half. Ultimately it's going to come down to the shooter. But no, that Tikka is plenty good enough for hunting. It's more than enough for hunting. I mean, you can buy a Remington 700 for cheaper or a Ruger American for cheaper. It's all what the user wants to do with it, But as long as it holds a minute, I don't have a problem with any of the rifles.
It's definitely the shooter. Because I know Ray can pretty much outshoot me with
anything.
Everything from a pellet gun to a missile launcher. Because we've shot almost about everything.
I wouldn't give Ray any credit for shooting a missile launcher. Those are already fucking guided anyway. He's just pushing buttons.
No, he doesn't even turn the missile launch thing on.
You guys wait till you see some of the next videos coming up. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I got a good one that I got to edit still.
Hey, I'm going to wait for the after chat to talk to you about this. Never mind. I don't want to bore everybody. It's very specific to.
But I'm wondering if $700 will make me more happy over a lifetime. That's true. I mean, that's that value that you're getting for paying the extra money for the Tikka. I mean, Remington 700 has always been like the staple rifle. I mean, for military, law enforcement, man, the Remington 700, you can't beat it. You can get every single thing you want for that rifle. But if you want something a little better and you want to go with a Tikka, I mean, if it's something you're going to keep, why not? Or a Seiko or whatever. I mean, that's what's that AI going to do that these other guns aren't going to do, other than just being fit and finish and the accuracy. But yeah, I mean, $700 is fine. Tikka's a good rifle.
Even God, what is wrong with me tonight? Savage makes some really decent.
Yes, Savage. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's another one. I mean, I just sold one that was. I try not to sell my rifles, but I just sold one of those Savage BA 110s. just because it was so heavy, it wouldn't fit in the safe. If it was a 338 Lapua, that thing would drive tacks. I mean, the thing was good forever out, you know. But value for the money, you find another 338 that'll do that, you know. And you know, a lot of the guys, a lot of precision guys are doing the, what do they call them, the rimmage barrels, where you basically take the conversion kit and you take a Remington 700 and you can put the Savage barrel, the action, which you can change it out yourself. A lot of guys are doing that now. They call it a rimmage. Remington Savage. Yep. That way you're not having to take it to your gunsmith or do any of that to rebarrel it.
That's good to know.
Yep.
Scopes, Canadians. There's a lot of great questions out here. Ruger American or Remington 770?
I'm not even seeing that. Oh, hold on. Here we go. I like L-cans. Yeah, I've got a lot of the L-cans, and I'll tell you, those 1 to 4s, those are spot on, but they are pricey. You know, you're basically buying a dot. I mean, illuminator, it's a quick 1 to 4. They're great, but they are expensive.
They look heavy.
They're not that bad. They're not that bad at all.
You got a lot of Ruger American people are liking the Rugers.
Yeah, the only negative experience I've ever had with the Ruger American is, and this is the only time it's ever happened, I had gotten one of the very first Ruger American 223s in that hit the market, and I immediately threw a suppressor on it, and from the factory, it was not threaded correctly to where it was in line with the axis, and the very first shot, baffle strike, blew out the end of the suppressor, and I was not happy because now it's going to be gone for 2 months. And yeah, when we checked it with the gauge, everything looked good, but it was off. It was off just a little bit. But other than that, Ruger American, I think it's a great rifle. I also think that the Ruger, the RPR, unbelievable for the money. You know, you guys have heard me say this. That's a great bang for the buck.
Even the
IOR,
what are they called?
Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember what it is. What is the Ruger? The Ruger precision rifle? It's not
that's
a hunting
what I said,
rifle.
the RPR. Yep.
Oh, okay. And the cool thing about those, there's barrels from everybody.
Yep, handguards, everybody now, and that's been a great platform. Very, very versatile.
Even it almost sounds like the new big boy 1022, where they're making lots of different options for it.
Even Proof is making barrels specifically for them.
See, that's pretty badass. That's what's nice about
the Ruger Model 77. Model 77 is a great rifle on the Ruger. Sorry, jumping up here to Fuzz Fork. You know, that was, you know, when I think of a Model 77, I think back in the days where Winchester had their, you know, everybody was wanting a pre-64 action on a Winchester, and you know, Winchester had their Model 70. The Ruger Model 77 is a great action. Those have always been pretty good rifles, depending on the barrel configuration. Remington come up with a PSR. Yes, the military sniper rifle was chosen over this. That's a great topic, Scotty, because when they fielded those trials, what they did was everybody came up with something. FN had their, what's the name of it, SoCal? The one you were looking at?
Oh, the Ballista.
Yeah, the Ballista. FN had the Ballista. Barrett had the dang it, I had one. I can't even remember the name of it now.
I know what you're talking about, though.
The M. Yeah, it had the interchangeable barrels. So one of the things was you had a certain amount of time you could switch it from different calibers, from 308 to 300 Win Mag, 338, and all of that. They didn't call it the PSR. I believe it was called a TSR or MSR.
MSR sounds right.
And it is still in use today. I know that for a fact. And it is a great rifle, but it's extremely expensive. I think cost point of that whole thing, or price point, I think base was like 14 grand on it. But I've had a chance to shoot those, and those are excellent. I think the chassis were made by Cadex. Cadex is a Canadian company, and the problem with that is I don't think they could outsource to Canada for those parts. You know, I have no idea if this is true or not, but if I'm not mistaken, anything for military has to be buried compliant, and so it has to be made in the USA, especially with the clothing and all that. So I think the KDEX might have caused some issues because that wasn't made here in the United States. But either way, that was the rifle. I could be misspoken on that.
And their requirement was for the barrel change out, right? To be
yeah.
That was one of the requirements for the bid, right?
I'm surprised.
Yes.
Who's the name of the company that we were just talking about? FN put the ballista out there because that gun is like that. The model of the gun is over 10 years old at this point.
Yeah, that's true. But they already had the engineering and they already had the tooling and everything to make the original prototypes. And so, you know, why wouldn't you? If you're not going to get fielded to the military and they're not going to pick you up on the contract at that point, why wouldn't it be, hey, let's generate some revenue here and use what we've got, this existing stock, and let's go ahead and market it to the masses and see if it goes. But you can't do that at $6,000 or $7,000. I mean,
yeah. It was funny because we were talking about this rifle when I was feeling the need to get another one, and you know, we were going back and forth, and he's like, "Just do some research, dude. They're not that great." And so I was doing the drows on the AI just last week, and
If you say you bought another rifle, I'll probably drive over to your house and smack you right now.
No. This is, I mean, you already know about it. So anyway, I'm drozing this thing on Thursday, and this, you know, skinny little, you know-it-all kid, and it's like 22 years old. He's in there. Oh yeah, I got a CZ Parrot, and I got a CZ Checkmate, and I got a CZ this and a CZ that, and I'm gonna get that gun right there. That FN is badass. I'm like, you go ahead, buddy. Pay full list for it, plus $400 in commission. You buy that rifle, buddy.
Oh, that's yours.
No, they have a ballista up on the wall where I actually had my AI sent to this gun shop, but I was talking to X-Ring because I was like, what do you think about this? You know, looking for, so it's a hard pill to swallow when you spend that much money on a rifle. You're going to look for all the advice you can get from somebody who knows, and you know, here's one source right here. So I was asking him about it, and he's like, nah, don't do it. I'm like, all right, cool, enough said. So I spent, you know, the better part of an hour researching and digging up information on them, and they're not that great. And so I was kind of laughing to myself. This guy's all fired up about it, and it's like my buddy's standing right there, my good friend who's the Droz, you know, my FFL, and I'm like, Frank, you got a winner. Sell the rifle to this guy. Yeah. I told him I'd give him $4,000 for it, but they have it for sale for $7,800.
Yeah. Well, Scotty here says PSR, which that probably was the original, and then they changed it to MSR because I know that stood for their modular sniper rifle. So that might have been where the name change came in, but maybe the PSR was the original. I don't know. You probably know that better than me, but the MSR is a great setup. And I saw somebody say on here, I thought the only requirement was first focal plane. I don't know who was responding to on that in regards to optics.
I think that's,
I have no idea.
First focal plane means add $1,000, but it's worth it. If you're gonna be tracking and need to be doing scaling and measuring distances and sizing targets, you've got to have it. Unless you like doing a lot of math. Unless you like math.
Desert Tech has interchangeable barrels. Yes, they do. The problem with the Desert Techs, at least in the past, and I don't want to be careful because I'm new to this YouTube thing, and I don't want somebody to say that I'm slandering the company or anything else. But I know that the Desert Techs, as a matter of fact, I was playing with one last week in 375 shot tack. But the Desert Techs, everybody that bought those initially had a hard time getting parts. There were issues with some bolts. But yes, Desert Tech if you guys don't know what it is, it's basically a chassis system. It's built like a bullpup, so it is a bullpup, so you can get it in a shorter length with a full-length barrel. But they've had some issues there as far as longevity with those things. So, like I said, I'm not slandering them, but I know some guys that own them and have had those problems. So I just want to mention that.
Well, we've been talking for quite a while now, unless you guys are still having fun.
Actually, I just want to.
What's a good setup to get into precision long range? Yeah, Alaskan ballistics to get into precision long range for less than $1,200. Is that $1,200 or 1,200 yards? If it's $1,200, the RPR is probably going to be the only way to go for versatility with the platform. If you're talking 1,200 yards, then I would say your 6.5 Creedmoor would be a perfect fit for that.
Those are nice.
And then Southern style, totally different. He just forgot the scope and forget the scope and buy a 458 SOCOM. I was thinking he was saying that he bought a 458 SOCOM, which is fun.
So he's saying $1,200.
I love my 458.
Yeah, $1,200. I'm going to say go with a Ruger Precision rifle, the RPR. You know, I've seen those as low as $900 and something dollars. One or the Gen 1s. The Gen 2s have the muzzle brake and something else on them, but it's a hard platform to beat for the money. It really is.
How long we've been yapping for?
RPR with M-bus sights. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that would be all under $1,200.
Trying to find decent backup iron sights, you're going to spend at least $150. So it might push over. You might be $1,300.
224 Valkyrie. Great round. I believe we're going to see a whole lot more of that. I'm actually working on a project right now in 224 Valkyrie. Not me, but for a company. You know what? I'm going to be quiet about it, but that is a great round. I think they've hit a winner with that one, you know, being able to stay supersonic out to 1,300 yards. I like the platform so far, but I'm not allowed to discuss what I'm working on.
Supersonic.
Let's see. Ruger American Primary Arms, front focal. Hey, that's a good setup right there, yeah, because Primary Arms, front focal are like the Super Sniper on a fixed 1,000 meters. If you're wanting optics, that's a good. That's good. Bad Billy, man, I'm going to be biased on that one. You know, I don't have any firsthand experience with any of the Shytacs. So at this point, I'm going to say, well, I'm shooting an AI, so I'd have to side with that until I do more research. I mean, there's a lot of AIs rifles out there. I mean, you got to look. The British military is using them. It's not something that there's just a handful of them out there. I don't know how many Shytacs they make a year, but I know, AIs. Those are mass-produced precision rifles.
Well, and the bonuses of being able to send the barrel out to get worked on, or another one ordered. I was watching a video on YouTube actually about it and how nice it was for the actual snipers that are out, working, where they don't have to get rid of their rifle. They can just, change a barrel out, send the other stuff to get fixed, and they're not out of rifle for 6 months, or a few months. I was like, that's pretty freaking. You
got to make sure they have what's in stock. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, because they get familiar with their own. They got their favorite, and when they got to go send it off to get worked on, they're like, "This sucks."
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Well,
it seems like right now, real quick, the trend is all these manufacturers coming out with these interchangeable barrel systems. The military was looking at it. AI's got it. The thing is every time you start switching out a barrel, you're having to re-zero that optic, or you've got to have the data, and it's got to made up every time. Even Proof has a rifle now where you can switch out the calibers, and I don't know. I mean, I've had a couple of those. I had that Barrett, and It seemed more of a pain in the butt. It's like almost easier just to reach in and grab another rifle than it is to switch out a barrel and re-zero everything. You could definitely take a game animal. Have you tried New Barnes bullet exposed to expand 700 yards? I'm not a hunter, so I can't answer that. Alaskan.
He hunts paper and steel.
No, I used to hunt a lot. I gave that up, and yeah, now it's just fun stuff. I'm not getting shot at anymore, so that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Yeah. So yeah, hunting. I'm not gonna. No, to ask this question, I have owned 2 of the IOR Valdatas, and they both wouldn't track worth a darn. But I do know that there's a lot of guys that love them and swear by them and say it's the best thing out there since sliced bread. I just had not had that experience. You know, that's where I'm at with it. I mean, I can only go on my past experiences. I didn't have good luck with them. Expensive. Yeah.
Fuzz forks crack it.
I know. There's been some pretty funny comments on it tonight.
There always is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys have more rifle questions, we'll do another one of these at a later date. We just wanted to say hi. And let's go ahead and do some outros. So, Mr. SoCal,
Hey, thanks for having me on, Rick. Always fun to do these live chats. Enjoy them. Everybody out in the side chat, thanks for stopping by. You guys, hope you had an awesome Easter. And bok bok, Easter Bunny.
There you go. I forgot about that. All right, Mr. X-Ring.
All right. Well, I didn't know we were going to go live or anything else. You know, when I talked to you earlier, like, hey, you up for just doing a little chat? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, we're going live. I'm like, what the heck? And so, hey, it was a good chat. I mean, I didn't think it was going to turn out the way that it did. I appreciate everybody having me on. I can only, speak about experiences that I've had personally. I don't put a lot of value in stuff that I read. If I don't have real world experience with it, I'm one of those that just say, I'll keep my mouth shut, but hopefully you guys learned a little something. And like I said, thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, it seems like the people enjoyed the rifle kind of deal. I know we have the 3-gun chat over on Bald and Curious's. Maybe we'll do a rifle talk or something and have a little more fun. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next one. I know X-Ring's got some videos coming out soon that should be pretty funny. And other than that, actually, I know he's got some awesome shit coming out. Super pissed I'm working because I want to be there. Sucks ass. I might just quit right now so I can drive back. Other than that, you guys have a great night. Happy Easter, and see you on the next video. Peace.
Thanks.